The server rack hummed in our basement like a mechanical heartbeat, its blue LED lights casting shadows across the concrete walls. I was elbow-deep in cable management at 11:30 on a Tuesday night, when Roxanne's voice drifted down from the kitchen above, sharp and conspiratorial. "Mia, you there? Put me on speaker." I froze, screwdriver halfway to a loose connection. My wife rarely called her assistant this late, and never with that tone. Breathless, excited, like a teenager sharing secrets. "Okay, you're on speaker," came Mia's young voice through the floorboards. "What's the emergency?" "No emergency. Just wanted to dish about today's meeting. Did you see how Jonas looked at me when I presented the Morrison account strategy?" My hand tightened around the screwdriver. Jonas Weller, her boss. Mid-40s, old money, the kind of guy who wore $1,000 suits and drove a BMW like it was a constitutional right. "Oh my God, yes," Mia giggled. "The way he leaned forward when you were talking about brand positioning, I thought he was going to fall out of his chair." "Right?" And then afterward, when everyone left, he asked me to stay for those after-hours meetings to discuss implementation details. Roxanne's voice dropped to a whisper, but the basement acoustics carried every word. 3 hours, Mia. 3 hours of just us, going over strategy. "Strategy, huh?" Mia's tone was knowing, playful. "Is that what we're calling it now?" They both laughed, and something cold settled in my chest like winter fog. I'd been noticing things for weeks. Roxanne working late more often, new perfume that smelled expensive, designer blouses that cost more than my monthly car payment. She'd explained it all away: important client, promotion track, professional image matters in communications. I believed her because I wanted to, because after 15 years of marriage, you trust the person who shares your bed, your mortgage, your dreams of retiring to that cabin in Vermont. But listening to her giggle about after-hours meetings with Jonas, I realized how stupid I'd been. "Harold doesn't suspect anything, does he?" Mia asked. "Harold?" Roxanne laughed, and it was the cruelest sound I'd ever heard. "Harold thinks corporate strategy sessions involve spreadsheets and coffee. He has no idea what real ambition looks like." The screwdriver slipped from my fingers, clattering against the concrete floor. "Besides," Roxanne continued, "he's always down in that basement with his computers. Sometimes I forget he's even here." I sat there in the blue glow of the server lights, listening to my wife discuss my obliviousness with her 25-year-old assistant. 15 years of marriage, and I was a punchline. But here's the thing about being underestimated. It gives you advantages people don't see coming. I climbed the basement stairs quietly, each step deliberate and measured. Roxanne was in the kitchen, phone pressed to her ear, back turned to me. She wore the black silk robe I'd bought her for our anniversary, and her hair was perfectly styled despite the late hour. "I should go," she was saying. "Harold might come up soon, and I don't want him asking questions." She ended the call and turned around, startling when she saw me in the doorway. "Oh, you scared me. How long have you been standing there?" "Just walked up. Server's fixed." I kept my voice level, casual. "Who was on the phone?" "Mia. Just work stuff. You know how it is with the Morrison account." I nodded, studying her face. She was good. No tells, no nervous gestures. Just the practiced smile of someone who lied for a living in corporate communications. "I'm exhausted," she said, moving past me toward the stairs. "Going to bed." I watched her go, noting how she took her phone with her. Roxanne used to leave it charging in the kitchen overnight. Another small change I'd filed away without understanding its significance. Alone in the kitchen, I poured myself 3 fingers of bourbon and sat at our granite breakfast bar. The house felt different now, not like home, but like a stage where I'd been playing the role of the clueless husband while my wife auditioned for something else. I thought about Jonas Weller. I'd met him twice at company events, firm handshake, easy smile, the kind of confidence that comes from never having to worry about money. He treated support staff like furniture and made jokes about blue-collar work ethic that weren't quite jokes. My phone buzzed with a text from Cliff, my old friend who ran Murphy's gym downtown. "Boxing tomorrow? You look like you need to hit something." Cliff had known me since high school, back when I was skinny Harold Finch from the wrong side of town, before I learned computers and clawed my way into the middle class. He could read my moods better than my own wife. I texted back, "Yeah. Need to work some things out." The bourbon burned going down, but it was nothing compared to the fire building in my chest. Roxanne thought I was predictable, harmless, too focused on servers and spreadsheets to notice her affair. She was about to learn how wrong she was. The next morning, Roxanne left early for a breakfast meeting with the Morrison team. She kissed my cheek like she had every morning for 15 years, but now it felt like performance art. "Don't wait up tonight," she said, adjusting her blazer in the hallway mirror. "Jonas wants the whole team to stay late and finalize the presentation." "Of course he does," I said, and she shot me a sharp look. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing, just that Jonas seems to demand a lot of after-hours work from his team." Her jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "He's thorough. That's why he's successful." After she left, I sat in my home office and did what I do best: gathered information. As an IT procurement consultant, I specialized in finding weaknesses in systems and exploiting them for better deals. People were just another kind of system. I started with social media. Roxanne's Instagram had become more polished lately, full of team lunch photos and strategy session selfies. In 3 recent posts, Jonas appeared in the background, not obvious unless you were looking for him. Her LinkedIn was more interesting. She'd been endorsing Jonas's skills with unusual frequency, and he'd been returning the favor. Professional networking or foreplay? The line was apparently thinner than I'd realized. I opened a new browser window and searched for Jonas Weller. His profile painted him as a golden boy, MBA from Wharton, previous positions at Fortune 500 companies, divorced 3 years ago with a settlement that made headlines in the business section. Divorced. That detail sat heavy in my stomach. My phone rang, interrupting my research. The caller ID showed Roxanne's office number. "Harold Finch." "Mr. Finch? This is Mia Levesque, Roxanne's assistant. I'm calling about those tax documents you needed." Mia. The same voice that had giggled about after-hours meetings last night. I could use this. "Right, the 1099s from last year. Is Roxanne available?" A pause. "She's busy with the boss right now. In a meeting, if you know what I mean." The words hung in the air between us. She'd said it automatically, then seemed to realize what she'd revealed. "I mean, they're in a strategy session. Very intense. Could take hours." Something clicked in my brain. Not anger, but opportunity. Mia was young, probably underpaid, definitely underappreciated, and she'd just handed me a weapon. "Mia," I said, my voice warm and conspiratorial. "This might sound strange, but would you like to grab dinner tonight? I could use some company, and you sound like you could use a break from all that intense strategy." Silence. Then, "What? Are you asking me out?" "Just dinner. 2 people who both know what it's like to be overlooked by the important folks. What do you say?" Another pause. "I shouldn't. 7 o'clock, Benedetto's on State Street, just conversation. Nothing inappropriate." "Okay," she said finally. "But just dinner." I hung up and leaned back in my chair, already planning the evening. Mia had information I needed, and she'd just proven she was willing to share secrets. All I had to do was give her the right audience. That afternoon, I drove to Murphy's gym and found Cliff wrapping hand wraps around a heavy bag. He was 52, built like a fire hydrant, and had been running the gym since his boxing career ended with a detached retina in 1998. "You look like hell," he said without looking up. "Feel worse? Wife trouble?" I told him everything. The overheard phone call, the late nights, the way Roxanne looked through me like I was furniture. Cliff listened without interruption, occasionally grunting acknowledgement. "So, what's the plan?" he asked when I finished. "Still working on it. Here's some free advice. Don't get mad. Get smart. Mad makes you stupid. Smart makes you dangerous." He tossed me a pair of gloves. "Now hit something before you explode." I spent an hour pounding the heavy bag, each impact sending shockwaves up my arms. With every punch, I thought about Jonas's smug face, Roxanne's dismissive laugh, the casual cruelty of being erased from your own life. By the time I left the gym, my knuckles were raw, but my head was clear. I had a dinner date with Mia, and she was going to help me whether she knew it or not. Benedetto's was perfect for my purposes, intimate enough for private conversation, public enough that Mia would feel safe, and popular enough with the downtown professional crowd that someone was bound to recognize us. Mia arrived 5 minutes late, looking nervous in a black dress that probably cost a week's salary. She was prettier than I'd expected. Auburn hair, green eyes, the kind of fresh-faced ambition that made older executives feel powerful. "I can't believe I'm here," she said, sliding into the booth across from me. "Relax. Just two people having dinner." She ordered wine. I stuck with water. I needed to stay sharp. "So," I said once the server left, "how long have you been working for Roxanne?" 8 months. It's my first real job out of college." She fidgeted with her napkin. "She's been a great mentor." "I'm sure. And Jonas? What's he like as a boss?" Mia's cheeks flushed. "He's intense, very demanding, but he gets results." "Roxanne certainly seems to enjoy working with him." "They make a good team," she said carefully. I leaned forward, lowering my voice. "Mia, can I be honest with you?" She nodded. "I know about the affair." Her wine glass stopped halfway to her lips. "I don't know what you mean." "Last night, when you two were on speakerphone, I heard everything." The color drained from her face. "Oh, God, I'm so sorry. I didn't know you were listening. It's not your fault. But I need to know, how long has this been going on?" She set down her wine with shaking hands. "I can't. This is my job." "Your job is to enable my wife's affair." "No, They asked me to cover sometimes. Reschedule meetings, take messages. I thought it was just business at first. But now you know better." She nodded miserably. "It started about 3 months ago. After the Morrison account came in, Jonas threw a celebration party, and afterward..." She trailed off. "Afterward, they celebrated privately." "I'm really sorry, Mr. Finch. I never meant for you to find out this way." I reached across the table and patted her hand gently. "You're not the villain here, Mia. You're just caught in the middle." She started crying then, quiet tears that she tried to hide behind her napkin. I felt a stab of guilt for manipulating her pain, but I pushed it down. Roxanne and Jonas had made their choices. Now I was making mine. "Can I ask you a favor?" I said. She looked up, mascara smudged. "What?" "Can I take a picture?" "Nothing inappropriate. Just two people having dinner. I'd like to remember that someone was honest with me tonight." She hesitated, then nodded. I pulled out my phone and took a selfie of us both smiling. Her tear-stained but genuine, me looking like a man enjoying unexpected company. "Thank you," I said, "for being honest, for treating me like a human being instead of an obstacle." We finished dinner, making small talk about her college years, her career goals, her dreams of moving to New York someday. She was sweet, ambitious, and completely unaware that she'd just handed me the ammunition I needed. I walked her to her car and thanked her again for her honesty. "What are you going to do?" she asked. "I'm going to think about it." "But Mia? You might want to start looking for another job. This situation isn't going to end well for anyone involved." She nodded and drove away, leaving me alone in the parking lot with my phone and a plan that was already forming. I opened Instagram and posted the selfie with a simple caption. "Unexpected company tonight. Sometimes the best conversations come from the most surprising places. Grateful and honesty. Within minutes, the likes and comments started rolling in. Roxanne's friends, my old colleagues, people from the neighborhood. Everyone wondering who the pretty young woman was and why Harold Finch looked so happy. My phone rang 20 minutes later. "What the hell is that picture?" Roxanne's voice was sharp enough to cut glass. "What picture?" "Don't play dumb. The one with that girl. Who is she?" "Mia Levesque, your assistant. We had dinner." Silence. Then, "You had dinner with my assistant?" "She's very nice, honest, refreshing change of pace." "Delete that picture, now." "Why would I do that?" "Because it's inappropriate. You're a married man having dinner with a young woman." The irony was so thick I could taste it. "You're right. Married people shouldn't be having intimate dinners with people who aren't their spouses." Another silence. Longer this time. "Delete the picture, Harold." "No," I said, and hung up. The phone immediately rang again. I let it go to voicemail, then again, and again. I sat in my car, watching the likes and comments multiply on my phone screen. Roxanne's professional network was small and gossipy. By morning, everyone would know that Harold Finch had been seen with a beautiful young woman while his wife was working late. The irony would be lost on them, but that was fine. Sometimes the best revenge was simply holding up a mirror. I didn't go home that night. Instead, I drove to the Holiday Inn downtown and paid cash for a room, then sent Roxanne a text. "Staying downtown tonight. Need some space to think." She called immediately. I declined the call and turned off my phone. The next morning, I drove home to find Roxanne waiting in the kitchen, still in yesterday's clothes. Her eyes were red-rimmed and furious. "Where were you?" "Hotel." "With her?" I poured coffee, taking my time. "With who?" "Don't play games, Harold. Did you sleep with my assistant?" "Did you sleep with your boss?" The question hung between us like a loaded gun. Roxanne's face went through several expressions: denial, anger, calculation, before settling on wounded innocence. "I can't believe you'd accuse me of something like that." "I can't believe you'd do something like that." "I haven't done anything." 3 months, Roxanne. Since the Morrison celebration. After-hours strategy sessions. Intense meetings that go late into the night. I sat down across from her. Should I keep going? Her face crumbled. Not with guilt or remorse, but with rage at being caught. "You had me followed. I had dinner with your assistant. She's very talkative when someone actually listens to her. That little snake. I'll fire her today." "For telling the truth?" Roxanne stood up abruptly, pacing to the window. "You don't understand the pressure I'm under, the competition for advancement. Jonas and I have a professional relationship that sometimes requires—" "Fucking him?" She spun around, eyes blazing. "Don't you dare judge me. You have no idea what it takes to succeed in my world." "Your world?" "I thought it was our world, our marriage, our life." "Our life?" She laughed bitterly. "When was the last time you showed interest in my career? My goals? You're perfectly happy with your little IT consulting business and your basement servers, but some of us want more. More than marriage? More than partnership? More than mediocrity." The word hit like a physical blow. Mediocrity. 15 years of building a life together, and that's how she saw it, as settling for less than she deserved. "Well," I said quietly, "I guess you found your upgrade." Something in my tone made her pause. "Harold, I'm going to work. We'll talk tonight." I left her standing in the kitchen and drove to my office, a converted warehouse space I shared with 3 other consultants. But instead of working, I spent the morning making phone calls. First, I called my lawyer, David Brennan. We'd gone to high school together, and he specialized in divorce law. "Harold, what's going on?" "I need advice about protecting assets in a divorce." Silence. "Jesus, You and Roxanne? She's having an affair with her boss. I have evidence. How much evidence? Enough. What do I need to know? David walked me through the basics. Document everything, secure financial records, don't make any major purchases or withdrawals. Massachusetts was a no-fault state, but adultery could still affect asset division if I played it right. Harold, he said before hanging up, be smart about this. Don't do anything stupid out of anger. Too late for that, I said. Next, I called my bank and moved half our joint savings into a new account in my name only. Perfectly legal. It was my money, too. Then I called Roxanne's office. Weller Communications, this is Mia. Mia, it's Harold. How are you feeling today? Terrible. Roxanne was furious this morning. She knows we had dinner. I figured she would be. Listen, I need to ask you something, and I want you to know you can say no. What? Do you have copies of any emails or texts between Roxanne and Jonas? Anything that proves their relationship is more than professional? A long pause. I could get in serious trouble. You're already in trouble. Roxanne's looking for someone to blame, and you're the most convenient target. Yes, I have some things. Messages she asked me to forward. Calendar entries I was told to keep confidential. Can you make copies? Why are you doing this? Because they're using you, Mia. They're making you complicit in destroying my marriage, and when it falls apart, they'll throw you under the bus to save themselves. Another pause. What do you want me to do? Meet me for lunch. Bring whatever you have. And Mia, start looking for another job. This is going to get ugly. I spent the rest of the morning researching Jonas Weller more thoroughly. Public records showed his divorce settlement had been brutal. His ex-wife got the house, half his investments, and substantial alimony. He was wealthy but cash poor, living on credit and appearances. More interesting was his employment history. He'd left his previous job at Meridian Corp under mysterious circumstances, right before a major client lawsuit. No charges filed, but the timing was suspicious. By lunchtime, I had a clearer picture of my enemy. Jonas Weller was a corporate predator who used charm and manipulation to get what he wanted. He'd targeted my wife not just for closeness, but for her skills and connections. Roxanne was being used as much as I was. The difference was, she was enjoying it. Mia met me at a small cafe near her office, looking like she hadn't slept. She carried a manila envelope that she clutched like a lifeline. I can't believe I'm doing this, she said, sliding into the booth across from me. You're doing the right thing. Am I? I'm betraying my boss. Your boss betrayed you first. She made you an accessory to adultery, then blamed you when it came out. Mia opened the envelope and spread its contents across the table. Printed emails, text message screenshots, calendar entries marked Private Meeting, JWRF. The evidence was damning and comprehensive. She had me book hotel rooms, Mia said quietly. Always paid with petty cash, never left a paper trail. But I kept copies of the receipts. Why? Because something felt wrong. Jonas would look at me like I was furniture, but he expected me to lie for him. Roxanne treated me like a friend until she needed me to cover for her. Then I became the help. I studied the documents. 3 months of systematic deception documented in corporate emails and expense reports. Jonas billing the company for client development dinners that were actually romantic dates. Roxanne scheduling off-site strategy sessions at luxury hotels. This is enough, I said. Enough for what? To end both their careers. Mia's eyes widened. You're going to expose them? They expose themselves. I'm just going to make sure the right people see it. I photographed every document, then handed the originals back to Mia. Keep these safe, and seriously, start job hunting. This company is about to implode. That afternoon, I made anonymous copies of the most damaging evidence and mailed them to 3 people. The CEO of Weller Communications, the head of HR, and the client contact for the Morrison account. the one Jonas and Roxanne had been using as cover for their affair. Then I went home to wait. Roxanne arrived at 6, looking haggard. "We need to talk." "I'm listening." "I'm sorry. About everything. The affair, the lying, the things I said this morning. I want to fix this." I studied her face. She was good at this. The remorseful wife, the penitent professional. But her eyes were calculating, not sorry. "How do you want to fix it?" "Therapy, counseling, whatever it takes." "What about Jonas?" "It's over. I ended it today." "Why today?" She hesitated. "Because I realized what I was risking. Our marriage, our life together. It wasn't worth it." "Or because someone at the office started asking questions?" Her face went pale. "What do you mean?" "I mean that affairs in small companies don't stay secret long, especially when they involve expense account fraud and client deception." "Harold, what did you do?" "Nothing illegal, nothing unethical. I just made sure the truth was available to people who needed to know it." She stared at me for a long moment, and I saw the exact moment she realized how badly she'd underestimated me. "You bastard. You're trying to destroy my career." "I'm trying to save my marriage. Or I was. But listening to you talk, I'm starting to think there's nothing left to save. You can't do this to me, to us. I didn't do anything to us, you did." My phone buzzed with a text from David Brennan. "Papers are ready when you are." Roxanne saw me check the message. "What was that?" "My lawyer." "You already filed?" "Not yet, but everything's prepared." She sat down heavily, the fight going out of her. "What do you want?" "I want my wife back, but she doesn't exist anymore, does she? The woman I married wouldn't have done this." "People change, Harold. People grow. People make choices. You chose Jonas. You chose his world over ours. You chose to make me the fool in my own marriage. I never meant for you to get hurt. You meant for me to never find out. That's different." We sat in silence for several minutes. Outside, the sun was setting over our neighborhood, the place we'd chosen together, the life we'd built together, the future we'd planned together. "What happens now?" she asked finally. "That depends on you, and on what happens at your office tomorrow." She looked up sharply. "Tomorrow?" "I imagine there will be some interesting conversations." Roxanne's phone rang. She looked at the caller ID and paled. "It's Jonas." "Better answer it. Sounds like you two have some things to discuss." She took the call in the other room, but I could hear her side of the conversation. Denials, panic, promises that she could fix things. When she came back, she looked like she'd aged 10 years. "They're calling an emergency meeting tomorrow. HR wants to see both of us." "I'm sorry to hear that." "Are you? Are you really?" I thought about it honestly. "No, I'm not sorry at all." I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat in my basement office, surrounded by the blue glow of server lights, and planned my next moves. Roxanne had gone to bed around midnight, but I could hear her moving around upstairs, pacing, making phone calls, probably strategizing with Jonas about damage control. At 6 a.m., she came downstairs dressed in her most professional suit, makeup carefully applied to hide the sleepless night. "I'm going in early," she said, "to get ahead of this." "Good luck." She paused at the door. "Harold, if I lose my job over this, you'll figure it out. You're ambitious, remember? Ambitious people always land on their feet." She left without another word. I waited an hour, then called Cliff. "You sound better," he said. "Feel better too. Want to grab breakfast? I have a story to tell." We met at Murphy's Diner, a greasy spoon near the gym that served the best coffee in the city. I told Cliff everything, the evidence, the anonymous tips, the emergency meeting that was probably happening right now. "Damn," he said when I finished. "Remind me never to piss you off." "I'm just getting started." "What's next?" "Depends on how today goes, but I'm thinking about that boxing match you mentioned." Cliff raised an eyebrow. "You want to fight someone?" Maybe, if the opportunity presents itself. At 10:30, my phone rang. Roxanne, crying. They suspended me, she sobbed. Pending investigation. Jonas resigned rather than face termination. I'm sorry. No, you're not. You planned this. You destroyed everything. I documented what you destroyed. There's a difference. I'm coming home. We need to talk. I won't be here. I'm staying downtown for a few days. Give us both some space to think. Harold, please. I hung up and turned off the phone. That afternoon, I drove to Jonas's apartment building, a converted warehouse in the arts district that screamed expensive bachelor pad. His BMW was in the parking garage, pristine except for a small dent in the rear bumper. I waited in my car until he appeared, looking like he'd been hit by a truck. Designer suit wrinkled, hair disheveled, the confident swagger replaced by nervous energy. He walked to his car without noticing me, then stopped short when he saw what I'd left on his windshield. A printed copy of one of his emails to Roxanne, the one where he called me harmless and suggested they take this somewhere more private. Jonas looked around the garage frantically, then spotted me sitting in my car 20 feet away. Our eyes met through the windshields. I got out of my car slowly, deliberately. Jonas did the same, but his movements were quick and nervous. You, he said. You did this. I didn't do anything. You did it all yourself. I just made sure people could see it clearly. You have no idea what you've cost me. Enlighten me. My career, my reputation, 3 years of building my position at that company. What about my marriage? 15 years of building a life with someone I trusted. Jonas laughed, but there was no humor in it. Your marriage was over before I came along. Roxanne was suffocating in mediocrity. I gave her a chance at something better. Better? You gave her a chance to throw away everything for a few months of sneaking around with a divorced corporate climber who can't keep a job. His face flushed red. You don't know anything about me. I know you left Meridian Corp right before a client lawsuit. I know your divorce settlement left you cash poor despite the fancy car and expensive suits. I know you target married women because single women your age see right through the act. Shut up. I know you're a predator who uses charm and manipulation to get what you want, and when you get caught, you blame everyone else. Jonas took a step toward me. I said shut up. Or what? You'll hit me? Go ahead. I'd love to explain to the police why a man who just resigned in disgrace for misconduct decided to assault the husband of the woman he was sleeping with. He stopped, realizing the trap. Any physical confrontation would only make his situation worse. This isn't over, he said. Yes, it is. You're finished in this city. Word travels fast in corporate circles, especially about executives who can't keep their hands off subordinates. You'll be lucky to get a job managing a fast food restaurant. I got back in my car and drove away, leaving Jonas standing alone in the parking garage with the ruins of his carefully constructed life. 3 days later, Roxanne called to tell me she'd been fired. The investigation had uncovered not just the affair, but expense account irregularities and client confidentiality breaches. Her professional reputation was destroyed. I need to come home, she said. We need to figure this out. There's nothing to figure out. I filed for divorce yesterday. Silence. Then, Harold, please. I know I made mistakes, but we can fix this. Some things can't be fixed, Roxanne. Some choices can't be undone. Don't do this. Don't throw away 15 years over a few months of poor judgment. I'm not throwing anything away. You already threw it away. I'm just cleaning up the mess. That weekend, I went to Murphy's gym for the first time since this all started. Cliff was working with a young heavyweight, calling out combinations while the kid pounded the heavy bag. Look what the cat dragged in, Cliff said when he saw me. How's the war going? Almost over. Just one more loose end to tie up. Yeah? What's that? Jonas has been calling Roxanne, trying to convince her they can salvage their relationship, maybe start that consulting business they'd been planning. Cliff stopped the timer and sent the young fighter to the showers. You're kidding. Apparently, he thinks if they stick together, they can weather the storm, present a united front against the unfair persecution they've suffered. Delusional. Completely. But it gives me an opportunity. I explained my plan. Cliff listened without interruption, occasionally nodding or grinning. You're a devious bastard, he said when I finished. I learned from the best. You always said the best fighters use their opponent's momentum against them. This isn't boxing, Harold. Sure it is. It's just a different kind of ring. That evening, I called Roxanne and suggested we meet for dinner to discuss the divorce terms. She agreed eagerly, probably thinking she could change my mind. We met at Benedetto's, the same restaurant where I'd had dinner with Mia 2 weeks earlier. Roxanne looked terrible. The stress had aged her, and without the expensive clothes and professional makeup, she looked like what she was, a woman who'd gambled everything and lost. Thank you for agreeing to meet, she said. We need to discuss practical things, the house, the accounts, the timeline. Harold, before we get into all that, I want you to know how sorry I am, how much I regret everything that happened. I know you're sorry. You're sorry you got caught. That's not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been you coming to me when you started having doubts about our marriage. Fair would have been honesty instead of lies. Fair would have been divorce before adultery. She started crying. I know I handled things badly, but the feelings were real. The connection Jonas and I had was real. Is that why he's been calling you? Because of your real connection? She looked up, surprised. How did you know about that? Because I know everything, Roxanne. I've known everything from the beginning. The question is, are you going to keep lying, or are you finally going to tell the truth? What truth? That this was never about love or connection. This was about ambition and opportunity. Jonas wanted your skills and contacts for his consulting business, and you wanted his status and connections for your career. You used each other, and you used me as cover. Her face went through several expressions before settling on resignation. You're right, about most of it, but the feelings developed along the way. Did they? Or did you just tell yourself that to justify the betrayal? Before she could answer, Jonas appeared at our table. I'd been watching for him through the window. He'd been sitting in his car in the parking lot for 20 minutes, working up the courage to come inside. Roxanne, he said, ignoring me completely. We need to talk. Jonas, what are you doing here? Trying to save what we built together. Trying to save us. He still hadn't acknowledged my presence. It was like I was invisible, irrelevant to the important conversation between the important people. There is no us, Roxanne said quietly. Not anymore. Of course there is. This is temporary. A setback. We can relocate, start fresh somewhere else. With what money? I asked. Jonas finally looked at me, his face twisting with disgust. This is a private conversation. Actually, it's not. This is my wife you're talking to, in public, about your plans to continue the affair that destroyed my marriage. Ex-wife, soon enough. True. But until the papers are signed, she's still my wife. And I'm still the man whose home you violated, whose trust you betrayed, whose life you tried to steal. Jonas stood up straighter, trying to intimidate me with his height and expensive clothes. You're pathetic, clinging to a woman who doesn't want you anymore. And you're a predator who targets vulnerable married women because you can't attract anyone without manipulation and lies. At least I'm not mediocre. There it was, the word that had started this whole war. Mediocre. The ultimate insult in their world of ambition and status. I stood up slowly, calmly. You're right. I'm not mediocre. I'm something much worse. What's that? I'm thorough. I pulled out my phone and showed him the screen. It displayed a recording app that had been running for the entire conversation. Congratulations, Jonas. You just confessed to adultery, conspiracy to defraud a corporation, and intent to continue an illegal relationship. All recorded, all admissible in divorce court. His face went white. You can't do that. Massachusetts is a one-party consent state. I can record any conversation I'm part of. Roxanne was staring at me like she'd never seen me before. Harold, what are you doing? What I should have done from the beginning, fighting back. Jonas lunged across the table, trying to grab my phone. I was ready for him. 15 years of marriage to someone who thought I was harmless had taught me the value of being underestimated. I stepped aside and let his momentum carry him into the empty chair. He stumbled, knocked over a water glass, and drew the attention of everyone in the restaurant. Sir, is there a problem here? The manager had appeared, looking concerned. No problem, I said calmly. My friend just had a little too much to drink. He was just leaving. Jonas straightened his jacket, his face burning with humiliation. This isn't over. Yes, it is, I said. It's been over since the moment you decided I was too mediocre to fight back. He left without another word, pushing past other diners on his way to the door. Roxanne sat in stunned silence, staring at the water spreading across the white tablecloth. Who are you? She asked finally. I'm the man you married, the man you forgot, the man you underestimated. I put my phone away and sat back down. I'm also the man who's going to make sure you never forget this lesson. What lesson? That actions have consequences, that betrayal has a price, that mediocre men can be the most dangerous enemies of all. I left money on the table for dinner and walked away, leaving Roxanne alone with the wreckage of her choices. The divorce proceedings took 3 months, with the recorded evidence of their continued relationship and the documented proof of corporate misconduct. Roxanne's lawyer advised her to settle quickly and quietly. I kept the house, the majority of our joint assets, and my reputation intact. Roxanne moved back in with her mother and took a job at a small nonprofit, the only organization that would hire someone with her professional history. Jonas left town entirely. Last I heard, he was selling insurance in Phoenix, using a different version of his name and hoping his past wouldn't follow him. But the real victory wasn't financial or professional. It was psychological. For 15 years, I'd been the reliable husband, the steady provider, the man who fixed servers and paid bills and never made waves. I'd been taken for granted, dismissed as harmless, treated like furniture in my own life. Now, I was something else entirely. I was the man who'd brought down a corporate executive and an ambitious communications manager with nothing but patience, intelligence, and their own arrogance. Word spread through our social circle quickly. The story became legend. How quiet Harold Finch had systematically destroyed the people who'd betrayed him, using their own weapons against them. Some people were horrified. They whispered about proportional response and forgiveness, about the cruelty of public humiliation. Others were impressed. They nodded approvingly and made mental notes never to underestimate the quiet ones. I didn't care what any of them thought. I'd learned something valuable about myself during those 3 months of warfare. I was capable of things I'd never imagined. I could be ruthless when necessary, strategic when threatened, and absolutely merciless when betrayed. The old Harold Finch had been a victim, passive, trusting, easily manipulated. The new Harold Finch was something different, something dangerous. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I ran into Mia at a coffee shop downtown. She'd found a new job at a marketing firm and looked happier than I'd ever seen her. Harold, how are you? Good, you look well. I am. The new job is great. Better boss, better pay, better everything. She paused. I heard about Roxanne and Jonas. What about them? That they tried to start a consulting business together. It failed after 3 months when their past caught up with them. Shame. Is it, though? I mean, after what they put you through? I studied her face. Mia had grown up during this ordeal. The naive young assistant had been replaced by someone harder, smarter, more aware of how the world really worked. They made their choices, I said. I just made sure those choices had appropriate consequences. You changed me, you know. That night at dinner, when you told me I deserved better than being used by people who saw me as furniture. It made me realize I had power too. Good for you. I testified in the corporate investigation. About the expense account fraud, the client confidentiality breaches, all of it. They tried to make me the scapegoat, but I had documentation. Smart. I learned from watching you. How you stayed calm, gathered evidence, built your case methodically. You taught me that revenge is a dish best served with documentation. She laughed, but there was steel in her voice now. The powerful people who'd tried to use her had created their own enemy. Take care of yourself, Mia. You too, Harold. And thank you for showing me what it looks like when someone fights back. I walked home through the city streets, thinking about transformation and consequence, about the price of betrayal and the power of patience. Roxanne had called me mediocre, dismissing 15 years of partnership as settling for less than she deserved. Jonas had called me harmless, treating me like an obstacle to be managed rather than a man to be respected. They'd both learned better, but the most important lesson wasn't theirs. It was mine. I'd discovered that the quiet, reliable, supposedly harmless man could be the most dangerous enemy of all, because while the flashy, ambitious people were busy performing their importance, the quiet ones were watching, learning, planning. I'd spent my entire adult life being underestimated. Now I understood what a weapon that could be. The old Harold Finch was gone, buried under the weight of betrayal and humiliation. The new Harold Finch was something else entirely, someone who understood that in a world of predators and victims, the smart move was to be neither. The smart move was to be the hunter. As I reached my front door, I thought about Cliff's advice from months ago. Don't get mad. Get smart. Smart makes you dangerous. He'd been right. I'd gotten smart, and I'd become very dangerous indeed. But more importantly, I'd won. Completely, decisively, permanently, and that victory would last forever.